I've been a fan of Dexter since it originally aired almost 20 years ago. Like many popular TV shows and movies, I figured there had probably been a video game release for it at some point. And sure enough, after doing a quick search, I found a mobile game released back in 2009. If you're not familiar with Dexter, he is a serial killer who only kills murderers. For his day job, he works as a forensics analyst at the Miami Metro Police Dept, and he specializes in blood spatter. His job at the police department gives him access to a wealth of resources, which enables him to both find new victims and determine if they deserve to die. Throughout the game, we just do what Dexter does in the show. We investigate crime scenes, complete forensics analysis, we interact with the show's cast, and finally, we stalk and kill some criminals. As mentioned, the game released in 2009, and it has what looks to be PlayStation 1 era graphics. However, this is due to it being a mobile game. Everything about this game will remind you that it was designed for mobile devices. Most of the core systems in the game have you swiping the screen. The missions are also really simplistic, and they feel directly inspired by games from the early 2000s. For example, several of the missions require you to just follow someone without being seen, and this used to be an extremely common game mechanic back in the early 2000s. The game also has no video settings, no audio settings, and no keybind settings. And lastly, several of the cutscenes just totally glitched out for me and I had to skip them. After quickly experiencing the game's outdated graphics, outdated mission design, and broken cutscenes, it was pretty obvious that this was not going to be a good game. At this point, I view the game the same way that Dexter would view one of his victims, as something that's unredeemable and worthy of death. Maybe the Dexter community and the gaming community as a whole would be better off if they never learned about this terrible game. Normally, I would just scrap the video at this point and move on to making a video on a game that I'd actually consider to be good. However, I took a page out of Dexter's book and decided to investigate further. I needed to determine if the game and my video about the game truly deserved to die. After completing the first mission, I realized the game was going to follow the same plotline from season 1 of the show. In fact, the first couple of missions are directly from episode 1. When the game begins, Dexter investigates a choir teacher who preys on his students. After that, he's called to a motel where the first victim of the ice truck killer had been found. Even Dexter's conversations and inner monologues are taken straight from the show.
Donut?
One of these days, you're gonna tell me.
One of these days, you're going to tell me.
You have a morbid sense of fun.
That's probably true.
You have a morbid sense of fun.
That's probably true.
You should find a pretty girl.
I found one. You.
Some of the actors from the show also voiced their characters in-game as well.
Rival dealer came in, 2 scumbags slashed to hell, dealer stole the drugs. Wham, bam, done. That's what happened, and that's who I'm looking for.
I was actually shocked at how closely the game was following the narrative from the show at this point. After we finish up at the motel, we have some freedom in where we want to go. There's a couple different locations we can go to investigate potential victims, and then we can also go to the police station. Here at the police station, of course, we get yelled at by Sergeant Dokes.
Where the hell you been?
Crime scene?
After that, we complete some forensics minigames. Personally, I like the DNA matching one and the blood spatter game the most. Once we're done at the police station, we can head back to Dexter's apartment. You can practice lockpicking and hacking into computers. If you go over to his air conditioner, you can find the blood slides that he's collected from his victims over the years. If you inspect the blood slide, you'll be able to find information about that specific victim. And if you head over to the television, you can watch some Showtime TV trailers. As I mentioned earlier, there's a couple different locations where we can go to investigate potential victims for Dexter. During these missions, we'll search for evidence which will help determine if his victim is actually deserving of death. One mission brings us to a construction site and Dexter has to climb over a fence. And to get him to climb over the fence, you have to swipe the screen multiple times and in a certain pattern, I guess. And for some reason, this either bugged or I'm just terrible. And after failing a ton of times, the game just decided to progress me and put me over the fence. In another mission, we pick a locked door, we get chased by a dog, and then we find some evidence of the victim's guilt. After guilt has been established, Dexter will set up a kill room, he'll stalk his victim, and then he'll attack them. Dexter likes to get his victims to admit what they've done before he kills them. His victims will react to the dialogue options that we select. Sometimes intimidation works, and other times a more level-headed approach works better.
Tell me, did you enjoy your screams, her pleas for mercy? I know I'm going to enjoy yours.
I'll kill you for this. I'll do you. I've done it before, and I'm not sorry.
After that, the victim meets their fate, and Dexter disposes of them. As a longtime fan of the show, I think it's pretty cool to be able to participate in this story that I've watched multiple times over the years. I also grew up playing PS1 era games with similar graphics and simplistic mission designs like this one, so this game hits a nostalgic note with me. This game was made by developers who really paid attention to the details, and they made sure to include aspects from the show that they knew the fanbase would appreciate.
Open your eyes and look at what you did.
Look or I'll cut your eyelids right off your face. Look at what you've done. Look or I'll cut the eyelids right off your face.
In episode 1 of the show, Dexter goes on a date with his girlfriend Rita, and they go to an outside market where they get some crab for dinner. When Dexter goes on the date in-game, of course, the developers make sure to include a crab hammering minigame. I don't know if this next one counts as an Easter egg, but in Dexter's apartment, you can see some family photos on his shelf. You can also see a picture of Rita, and then you can see a picture of a younger version of Dexter. If you remember from the show, there are multiple flashbacks that show a younger version of Dexter, but it's just Michael C. Hall wearing this ridiculous wig. And what's now known as the wig is one of the most memed aspects of the show within the fanbase, and I think it's hilarious that the developers include this in the game. Early in the video, I mentioned that I formed a negative view of this game at the beginning of my playthrough. I saw the game the same way Dexter views his victims, as something that's unredeemable and worthy of death. What seemed to be lazy development at first ended up just being the limitations that come along with making a mobile game. This game allows fans to participate in one of, if not the best season of the show, while also being accurate to the show's plot and its characters. While I'm disappointed that the game doesn't fully cover the events of Season 1, I still really enjoyed being able to experience it. Sometimes in the show, Dexter investigates a potential victim and determines that they actually don't deserve to die. Maybe that person did kill someone, but there's extenuating circumstances. In the same light, through further investigation, my opinion on this weird, outdated mobile game has been changed. Instead of letting this game die from obscurity, I think it should be celebrated as a fun experience for fans of the Dexter show. And finally, I'm glad that I overruled the initial opinion of my dark passenger, and I hope this game continues to live on through the Dexter fanbase.